Would I be the idiot for reporting my mom and sister for stealing my car? And buckle up because this story has 4 updates, and the last one is the craziest. I am male 24, and live with my mom in a rural part of the USA. For context, when it comes to my sister, 37, she is much older and we come from different fathers, and both grew up in split custody arrangements. We are not particularly close, almost acquaintances more so than siblings. I don't really feel any familial connection even though I love her. I don't feel obligated to bend backward for her. Well, sister lives 2 hours away, in a much more urban area, and is currently going through a divorce. Her and her ex-husband only had 1 vehicle and it belongs to the ex-husband, so when they split, he took the car. Sister has 4 daughters and works a full-time job. I on the other hand work from home and have no real external responsibilities. My mom came to me asking if my sister could borrow my car for a couple of months until the divorce is finalized so she has a way of transporting her and her kids to wherever they need to be without the financial burden of purchasing another car, or relying exclusively on ride-sharing. I just recently bought my car 12 V8 Mustang, and it's my first vehicle ever. I didn't get a hand-me-down, or get one as a present when I turned 16 or 18. I was basically immobile except occasionally being allowed to drive my mom's car, or when my dad had me I could get Ubers. Getting my own vehicle was extremely liberating, minus the loan, and I don't feel trapped at home, so when I was approached with this proposal I flat out said no. I can totally understand the justification for letting her use my car for a couple months, but aside from the fact I don't want to lose my newfound sense of freedom, I also just don't want someone else driving my car, and maybe that's selfish of me. Over the last few days my mom and sister have been trying to convince me to let her use the car, saying that she would pay for the car payment while she has the car, or that she'd pay for insurance if she has it longer than anticipated. No matter what they brought to the table, I kept saying no, much to their dissatisfaction. This morning, I realized that my mom wasn't home. I opened our garage to see that her car was still there, but mine was not. I immediately know what has happened and call my mom about the situation. She just tries to calm me down and have me try to picture it from my sister's point of view, but I'm just flushed with rage and instead just tell her that I'm going to report the vehicle as stolen instead. She just hung up the phone. As of now I presume my car is down with my sister, and I am seriously considering reporting it stolen and naming her and my sister as perpetrator and conspirator. I really don't want it to go that far, and I hope that we could instead work this out. But what I initially said as an angry threat, I'm starting to really consider as an option. I just don't know if it's worth burning so many bridges over a car, but the fact that my family won't respect my boundaries or my property is so frustrating. Would I be the idiot? Now for a few comments before the first update. Not the idiot. This is absolutely theft, and they need to learn to respect your property. Call it in. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I would call your sister and tell her that if your car is not returned in X hours, you will be reporting it as stolen and you will press charges. Her call if she wants this drama on top of her divorce. This is her actions and your mom, not yours. She clearly knew that you were not happy. Your mom owes you an apology, and if she kicks you out, I would go no contact. Then I found this mini update in the comments from the original poster. Mom has her own car, but doesn't want to lend hers out because she needs it for work every day. I had offered to let her use mine for work and she lend out her car to sister, but she refuted this idea saying that she doesn't feel comfortable driving my car and that she needs ample space for medical supplies. She is an in-home nurse. I am well aware that my living situation will change if I call the police on my mom and sister, but honestly the living situation is already compromised. Regardless of the resolution, I will be moving out as immediately as possible, as I am financially stable enough to do so. This whole thing is just the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, here's the first real update. Thanks everyone for all the input into the situation. I sincerely appreciate it. I ended up giving them an ultimatum to return my car by business close tonight. And if they do, I would be willing to move past it, and not let it affect any future relationships. Said I would also pitch in a small amount of money to help my sister rent/buy her own car. But if they don't return it by business close, I will be filing a police report that my vehicle has been stolen and that it was my mom who is the perpetrator and my sister is a conspirator. To answer a couple questions all at once. Mom has her own car, but doesn't want to lend hers out because she needs it for work every day. I had offered to let her use mine for work and she lent out her car to sister, but she refuted this idea saying that she doesn't feel comfortable driving my car and that she needs ample space for medical supplies. She is an in-home nurse. I am well aware that my living situation will change if I call the police on my mom and sister, but honestly the living situation is already compromised. Regardless of the resolution, I will be moving out as immediately as possible, as I am financially stable enough to do so. This whole thing is just the straw that broke the camel's back. Didn't put it in the original post, but I've been getting a lot of comments regarding living for free at my mother's house. We split bills 60/40 on basically everything. It's not truly 50/50, but absolutely by no means am I freeloading at my mom's house. We'll update again if the car has been returned or not. Now for a few comments before the second update. Comment 1. Your living situation will and should change regardless of calling the police or not. You said no and they didn't respect you enough to abide by your decision over your property. That's the very first thing that needs to change. If your sister can make the car and insurance payments on a Mustang, she can afford an old beater temporarily. There is no reason for you to pitch in. Comment 2. Your sister's comment that she would pay the insurance if she had it longer than anticipated tipped you off that she is already planning to keep the car indefinitely. And not only does your mom not want to give up her car, but I'm betting your sister prefers to drive your car and beg mom to bring it. The reason I think that is mom can't give sis her car and drive yours because she is scared of driving yours, but not scared enough to not steal it and drive it 2 hours away. Now for the third update. But stick around because there's one more after this and you won't want to miss it. So, car has been returned, and the police will not need to get involved. However, there is body damage that wasn't there the last time I used it. Can't tell if it was intentional damage or not, but it honestly doesn't matter. We'll be getting all relevant papers in order, and then we'll be lawyering up so the damages are paid for. As soon as this entire situation is resolved, I will be moving out. I have learned to never keep my keys out ever again. Thanks so much everyone for your input and advice. Now, for the fourth and final update. After the overwhelming majority of you told me that I need to go to the police in my last post, I have decided to report the entire situation to my local sheriff's office. We'll do everything in my power to make it so charges aren't pressed, which I hope is likely since the car was returned. We'll still be doing everything I mentioned in my previous post, regarding getting all papers in order and moving out as soon as possible. We'll probably still look into getting a lawyer just in case. Told the sheriff's office that my car was stolen for approximately 16 hours from my mom and sister, and that when the car was returned there was body damage that wasn't previously there. They are sending over a deputy to take a look at my car and question myself and my mom about the situation. I have group text chats that list my ultimatum, as well as some texts that were exchanged previously about mom and sister essentially begging to use my car while I kept saying no. I will be making my mom and or sister pay for the body damage, and if insurance won't, I will be going to court for it. I don't care how petty that is, or if it just opens an even larger can of worms. I absolutely refuse to pay $2,000 plus for body damage repairs that I didn't create. Hopefully this is the actual final update I will have to post regarding this situation. Regardless of the damage, I'm just glad that I have my car back. Family situation is beyond busted and will be going no contact with my sister for an indefinite amount of time, and will do the same with mom as soon as I move out, which is hopefully by the end of the month. Thank you all for your advice and input throughout this whole ordeal. Comment 1. Thank God, and while it's not fully in your control, charges being pressed wouldn't be the end of the world. They don't seem to understand that actions have consequences, and this may be the way they learn that. Good luck, op. Also a heads up, your rates may go up with your insurance, so maybe make them aware of the police report. Comment 2. You're the idiot, quite frankly. You're treating your mom and sister like random strangers who violated you, rather than understanding the needs of your family. You're taking a huge fuss over a temporary inconvenience. Your sister is going through a divorce and needs your support, not threats to involve the police. It's your car, sure, but what's the harm in letting her use it for a couple of months when you're working from home and don't need it as much? It's just a car, material things can be replaced, family can't. Your reaction is quite overblown. Imagine putting your family through legal trouble over a car. Instead of focusing on your temporary inconvenience, maybe it's time to rethink your sense of entitlement and learn some empathy. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my mother she was being childish over my wife falling asleep half without clothes in her living room? Okay, so my wife and I are visiting my mother this week. She and I don't have a good relationship with my mother, but due to some recent stuff going on in our lives, my wife said she wanted to maybe try to mend that relationship, and I agreed and reached out to her and scheduled a visit. The first day went pretty well, as did yesterday. Then last night we were sleeping in the guest room, and heard the baby crying, and my wife got up to get him. So here's what happened. She was wearing a t-shirt and underwear when she got up to take care of the baby, then she took off her shirt to feed the baby, put the baby back down, then she just lied on the floor of the living room and fell asleep without putting her shirt back on. She was essentially just sleepwalking. My mother woke me up this morning and told me that my wife was on the living room floor in just her bottoms and seemed extremely offended that she did that, and told me to get her that instant. I woke her up and got her shirt back, and we went back to the room where she got dressed. She was really embarrassed and told my mother she was sorry. But my mother wouldn't let it go and kept going on about how she couldn't believe she did that while we were guests in her house, and I told her she was being extremely childish since she had to raise a baby before too and should know how hectic it can be. This made her very angry and led to a pretty intense argument that ended with us getting our things and leaving. My wife is really embarrassed and feels really bad, and I'm pissed. I get that it was her house we were staying at, but for Christ's sake, my wife just had a baby and has been working her ass off taking care of him. Am I the idiot? Edit. Something I should have mentioned in the post. My wife is autistic, so she can behave in strange manners sometimes. And yes, my mother knows that. Edit 2. To clarify, yeah, we had the baby's cot in the living room, so she just lied down after putting him down. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. And good on you for sticking up for your wife. Autistic or not, she's exhausted. And you probably are too if you're pulling your weight and doing a fair share of the new baby duties. Obviously it wasn't an intentional offense, and your wife is embarrassed already. Instead of finding a way to help or comfort your wife, she chooses to find malice in it and continue to shame her after an apology? I can only shake my head in disbelief at her, and some of the posts here, lack of empathy and understanding. I definitely wouldn't waste too much time, energy, or effort on a relationship with someone like that. Good luck with the newborn and finding a better support network. Comment 2. I feel like this would be totally understandable given the circumstances. Yes, it's a little awkward, but your wife is literally sleep deprived and trying to feed a baby. She apologized. That should be enough. Maybe a relationship with your mom isn't meant to be. Not the idiot. Now for the update. 2 months ago I made a post about how my wife, an 8-month-old son, and I visited my mother's house where we got into a big argument over my wife. Since then, my mother and I have been able to draw some sort of truce where things are about where they were before, if not a little worse. However, I know a lot of people were concerned about my wife, and I just wanted to share something that happened today. So my wife's stepsister and her 5-year-old daughter are visiting us right now. Last night my wife was watching TV in the living room and our son was in his living room cot, and she fell asleep on the couch with the TV on and the baby asleep. Then she ended up doing the same thing where she woke up in the middle of the night and took her shirt off to feed him and then fell asleep on the couch without her shirt on. This morning her niece was the first one downstairs and she saw my wife and woke her up and was giggling like, "Aunt Nain, you fell asleep without your shirt on," and then picked up her shirt off the ground and gave it back to her. My wife said she felt very embarrassed and mortified at first, but then immediately after she put it back on, her niece quickly moved on to asking about what was for breakfast, and the two of them went into the kitchen to talk and make everyone breakfast, and her niece didn't once mention finding her on the couch without her shirt. My wife told me that it really made her realize just how much of a not big deal this situation with my mother was and how my mother was just being a baby. And she now feels a lot better about that whole situation I posted about. It's pretty tragic and hilarious that a freaking 5-year-old child handled the situation with more grace and maturity than my grown-ass mother did. Anyway, yeah, that made me really happy and I wanted to share it since it probably would make a bunch of others who were worried about her happy too. Comment 1. You're the idiot, and so is your wife. I mean, come on, you were in someone else's house. It's only right to respect their space and their sensibilities, isn't it? Sure, your wife was tired, but can't she feed the baby in a more private place, like the room you guys were sleeping in? And then to just fall asleep half naked on the living room floor? It seems incredibly disrespectful to me. Your mother was right to be upset and demand that you address the situation. I don't see how she was being childish at all, rather, she was simply expressing her discomfort in her own home. Also, your wife's autism isn't an excuse for inappropriate behavior in other people's homes. You need to step up and ensure such incidents don't occur again. Comment 2. If I found one of my kids or their spouses had fallen asleep in my living room, my reaction would be to gently and quietly cover them with one of the throw blankets I have on the sofa. Gender and state of dress wouldn't matter. My house can get chilly. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.